Hi everybody, thank you for coming to this presentation. My name is Greer Mancuso. I am a doctoral student at George Mason University. I'm also an ESOL teacher for Virginia Public Schools. This is my 15th year of teaching ESOL. I've been an elementary ESOL teacher, a middle school ESOL teacher, and I'm currently a high school ESOL teacher. And I've always worked with newcomer English learners, and I am very passionate about a particular population of English learners called students with interrupted schooling. In our county, we call them SIFE. There's other acronyms like SLIFE that you may hear as well. So this presentation will talk a lot about students with interrupted schooling, and I have chosen to use that term throughout my research simply because I didn't want to have them in a group with an acronym and a label. However, through research, you will see SIFE and SLIFE, and there's several other acronyms out there. So I'm going to share a recent project a study that I did with a group of teachers across the United States who work with students with interrupted schooling at a variety of levels. It was a collaborative action research project, and I just want to share what we did. We conducted it really through the spring and summer. We just concluded recently, and I'll share our preliminary findings with you. So we haven't gotten to the drawing all the implications and conclusions yet. But today I'll share everything we've done up to this point. All right. So the title of our project, our study, is Teachers Who Work with English Learners Who Have Had Interrupted Schooling. It was a collaborative action research study. And just to give you a little background on CAR, which is Collaborative Action Research, this is grounded in experiences and partnerships of individuals and teams working together to address significant problems so that we can find a new way to see and interpret what's happening. So the motivation for designing this study as a CAR project was so that we could have ESOL teachers work together who work with students with interrupted schooling and also become co-researchers themselves. And this was an effort to disrupt the traditional, separation between the researcher and the participant. Collectively, we were all equal, all of us, even though the study, was my idea originally, but we all came together and we were equal participants. Collectively, we decided to create a resource, which I'll share with you, for teachers and administrators to better reach this population. There's a website we've created. It is still a work in progress, but I'm sharing it with you, and you can see we're continually adding to it. I'll get to that later. So the research questions we set out to answer were: what knowledge, skills, dispositions, and instructional strategies do experienced ESOL teachers identify as being important for ESOL teachers to now have to best support students with interrupted schooling? And also, given our current demographic change, basically we have more students with interrupted schooling coming into the U.S., how can we support their work, ESOL teachers' work with English learners who have interrupted schooling? All right. In our study, we had 10 total participants. They represented 9 states on both the East Coast and the West Coast. All of the participants had or currently worked with English learners with interrupted schooling. Their experience was a range. We had a lot of very experienced teachers and some who were newer. We also had representation from elementary, middle, high school ESOL teachers. So it was a really good group that came together to share many different perspectives, and hearing from West Coast and East Coast teachers and their differences and the different populations who have interrupted schooling was really fascinating. The data sources we collected throughout the study: we did community discussion board posts, we did blog entries bi-week or every other week, we had synchronous meetings for an hour monthly where we'd meet and talk through everything we had done. We provided lots of documents that we analyzed, which are shared on the website I'll show with you. Chats and online discussion. So we had a lot of data that we collected together. The findings, just so you know how this was analyzed, was using thematic analysis, and we came up with global themes that pertained to our research questions. So the group came together, and once we were done in June, I'm the one who went back through and really dug through the data and really started to put it into a thematic analysis and share and check with our members. But the analysis part at the very end was more what I did with what we had done as a collective group. We came up with 4 global themes that pertain to the research question, and COVID was a huge topic of conversation since the pandemic, really hit in March around in the US. Our entire group ended up home teaching versus being in the building teaching, so it was a huge topic of conversation that dominated a lot of the projects. So we have some themes that have come out from that as well. This is just kind of a snapshot of the themes that we talked about, and I'll show you a few more graphics. I will share this presentation with you because there's a lot of information in it and it's too much to read. ESOL teachers need to understand more about the different types of students with interrupted schooling. So we've got, those who have been, reunification, refugees. There's lots of different types of students. ESOL teachers care deeply for the well-being and success of their students. It's critical now that ESOL teachers are equipped with the necessary skills to support their students, and ESOL teachers must provide the skills necessary to instruct their students with interrupted schooling. So specifically, they need those skills because they will have students with interrupted schooling, which is a different type of student than we traditionally have had in the past of English learners who may be coming in with some background knowledge and some literacy skills in their home language. Now, regarding COVID, some global themes that emerged as we went through the pandemic are that the emotional needs of students and teachers resulting from this pandemic cannot be ignored. We had some very emotional discussions in our synchronous meetings. The pandemic also has changed the way we educate our English learners because we're all doing it virtually or in a hybrid form right now. All educators need to be comfortable teaching virtually, which is something that a lot of us were struggling with when this first, we just didn't feel prepared. We felt inadequate. We felt we had a lot to learn to successfully reach our L's. All right, this is just these, I'm not going to go through all these, but these are the themes and a lot of what we identified and what a lot of our conversation, what it was about. So one of our first themes was ESOL teachers need to understand more about the different types of students with interrupted schooling. So some of the major topics were they're unique. They're different types of learners. We need to know about all the different types such as refugees, unaccompanied minors, their socio-emotional needs. We need to build relationships and we need to know about their lived experiences and their prior knowledge. We need to know how to meet their basic needs, and we also need to know how to meet their needs with literacy, especially if they are coming with no literacy in their home language. And we need to also have empathy, and we talked a lot about having patience and flexibility when working with this population, that they are very unique. All right, we also commonly agreed after lots of discussions that ESOL teachers really care deeply for their students. We all have a certain disposition that we all did in our group that really, we shared a lot of similar dispositions such as, empathy, patience, willingness to help. Equity was important. Teachers find their job rewarding. We found it rewarding, very challenging, but rewarding to work with English learners who've had interrupted schooling. We also have a huge respect for our students, knowing their lived experiences and backgrounds and what they're coming into the United States with, and that was something we all shared as dispositions. ESOL teachers need to have the skills necessary to instruct their students with interrupted schooling. That's critical now. Basic literacy instruction, especially for secondary level students who are arriving at the age of 17, 18, who only have a few years before they will be asked to either leave the school if there's an age cap in that state, or how will they reach graduation when we have such a small amount of time to fill the gap in literacy. So we need to know how to teach basic foundational literacy, especially to our secondary level students, if they have never had print literacy or have anything that they're able to transfer into when they're learning English. How to build relationships, how to support them emotionally, also how to meet their basic needs. And we talked a lot, there's some different unique behaviors, if students have not been sitting in a classroom for a very long time or if they've been working, how to handle transitioning back into a classroom environment for these students. It's also critical that We are equipped with strategies as ESOL teachers to be able to handle our students with interrupted schooling. And we made lots of lists of strategies, and a lot of these strategies and models that you're looking at on the screen, we've put into a website for you, which I will share with you. So I'm not going to read through all this, but we have a great wealth of information on the website that may help guide you as you're looking for ideas. All right, so this is the website. I'm going to take you on a very quick tour. Once again, it's a work in progress, so we are still working on it. We're still updating it. Okay, so here's our home page. It tells you a little bit about collaborative action research. This we truly, as a group, did all together. We have some videos for you. So we've collectively decided to create this resource for teachers and administrators to better help this population. We have a frequently asked questions section because we realized a lot of the other staff in our buildings had so many questions that we wanted to be able to address them. And we all divided and conquered different types of questions that were very common among non-ESOL teachers. You know, how do we support them? How do we identify them? What is an unaccompanied minor? So there's a huge section here for that. We also have a place for conversations. So we have set it up so that if you have questions, you can post a question in here and it goes to our entire collaborative action research team. And one of us will respond to you and either give you some advice, or if you want to share resources with us to put on the website, or just resources in general. This is a place where you can reach us. You can exchange ideas and help each other. And also you can post things you may want to share, and other people can come in and read what's been shared. So it's just a place for us to communicate with people across whoever is accessing this website, truthfully. We have a section of resources: instructional resources, domain-specific, literacy, and math. By domain-specific, I'm talking about listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So that's another location to go. And then we have strategies, approaches, and materials. If you click on the links, we have lots and lots of links in here for you. We are still working on organizing it. It might appear overwhelming at first because there's a lot in here, but we're trying to get it all so it's very user-friendly. And we also shared a lot of student stories, our own student stories from members in our team, and how we reached our students. So there's a lot of information on this as well. And at the bottom of every page, you can click here to contact us, and it, once again, is a form, a Google form that will go to the entire team and somebody will respond. So I just wanted to share that with you. All right, and then on to the last part of our findings, which had to do with COVID. The emotional needs were huge. You know, it was pretty devastating for a lot of our group to be sent home, you know, and all of a sudden transition or pivot, like, you know, many of those buzzwords you heard across the U.S., pivot into online learning. It was a struggle for a lot of us, and overarching themes we had. It was hard for teachers to work at home with their own families. Focus was an issue. Knowing time management was an issue. We were concerned for our students. There was a lot of social isolation for our students and for us. We were worried about their safety, basic needs being met. There was fear, there's trauma, both among students and teachers. So that's something that has to be addressed in the school system now that we are all starting to slowly return to school. The pandemic also has changed the way we educate English learners, and it's not going back to what it was anytime soon, and it may never go back to the way it was before. So we have to adjust. There are new gaps that they've had. Equity is a huge issue we talked about, the technology and access for our English learners, Wi-Fi, safe spaces to learn at home. There were many barriers, attendance that we discussed, confusion, and what's the most critical thing we need to teach our students now in this more shortened, we don't have as much time with them as we used to when we could see them in a school building. All right, all educators and students also need to be comfortable teaching virtually. We all ended up home virtually teaching so quickly that nobody was really prepared, even our most tech-savvy members of our team. And our students most certainly were not necessarily prepared. Even if they had computers in the building, did they have Wi-Fi at home? Were they prepared to go access online learning? there were just many barriers that really need to be addressed starting this school year, so that if we end up in a pandemic or another situation in the future, we're ready. We're ready, and it's a more comfortable transition for everybody. And obviously, we're still in it now, so hopefully, school systems are starting to train and prepare their staff, as well as trying to work with students. But it's hard to get those students ready when we don't get to have them in the building to prepare them. All right, and then lastly, the implications. We're still working on this, and conclusions. The study has just wrapped up. So ESOL teachers more than ever need to be prepared to best serve the unique population of students. We need to understand all the different types of students we have. We saw that as we had West Coast and East Coast teachers from different parts of the world who had students with interrupted schooling from different parts of the world. Empathy, patience, flexibility are critical. Having teachers with that foundation of literacy knowledge and how to instruct students from no literacy, especially when they're older, in a short amount of time, and move them as quickly as possible so that they can graduate before they age out and have to leave high school. How to address trauma, emotional supports, basic needs. COVID, or in our pandemic, we need to emotionally support our teachers and students and build that into the school year. Many school systems are now implementing lessons to help address this, but we're still in the pandemic, so there still needs to be, it's ongoing. Communication was huge. We need to better be able to communicate with our families when we have all shifted home. Do we have updated addresses? Are we able to contact them easily? Do we have translation supports? And what apps or, how are we reaching these families who may not have all the technology at home that some families do? And we have new gaps now in education for our English learners. What is essential curriculum now for our English learners? Is it the same as it was before our pandemic? What do they need the most now in the time and the platforms that we're using to teach? So that is a quick summary of our collaborative action research project. Please feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I would love to hear some feedback, and if you have some recommendations for implications or recommendations for the future based on our study and some of our outcomes, and please check out the website. Please leave us some comments. We would love to hear from you. I appreciate you hanging in there with me today. All right, thank you. Have a nice day. Actually, I'll say goodbye. Thanks.